Welcome to another edition of Upon Further Review. I am your second-time host this year, Derek Pato, Butler Eagle Sports Writer. I am flanked on my left by Butler Eagle Sports Writer Mike Kilroy and Eagle Sports Editor John Enrietto on my right. We would first like to thank our sponsors. Those would be Conlon Tarker, Troy Allen Chevrolet Buick GMC, Penn United Technologies, and Butler Health System. Guys, week 8 is in the books. A lot of blowouts last week.
There were.
Only 3 of our 11 games were decided by less than 18 points. John, week 8 games, the matchups, the results, what stuck out for you there?
Well, what stuck out for me, unfortunately, was a negative involving one of our local schools, and that's Corn City's 34-21 loss to Bradford. Not so much that they lost the game, but the way they lost the game. Unfortunately, it's, I believe, the third time this year where they had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, and they ended up coughing it up, giving up. I think Mike covered that game, so he can elaborate a little bit here, but I believe Bradford scored 3 touchdowns in less than 3 minutes in the fourth quarter to pull that game out. And that's the one that stands out for me. Again, not because Corn City lost, but how they lost. It stands out for me.
And it also cost them a playoff spot. They needed to win it.
It did. Yeah, they're not going to go to the playoffs. They're 3-6. They're out now. It's just a school policy thing. Everyone knows District 9 is an open tournament, but they're opting not to go with a losing record. I give them credit for that, for taking pride in the program that way. So,
Mike, how about you?
Murphy's Law really hit the Carson City football program hard this year. Anything that could have gone wrong went wrong for them this year, especially in the fourth quarters. I do need to correct you. They did blow 3 leads in the fourth quarter, but they weren't double digits.
okay.
And they were tied in.
Come on.
They were tied in a couple others in the
My
fourth
bad.
quarter. They were tied in a couple others in the fourth quarter and they ended up losing. So,
Yep.
so 5 or 6 losses, they were either ahead or tied in the fourth quarter of those losses. But I do admire their stand though. A lot of schools would have gone to the playoffs anyway because they have not played terrible this year. They've actually played well for most of the time this year. A lot of schools would have said, "Oh well, we can go. We're 3-6. We'll go to the playoffs."
Yeah.
But they decided they have a policy. In 2010, they did the same thing with Econo. They were 4-6. They said, "No, we have a standard. Our standard is 500 or better to go to the playoffs. We didn't meet that standard, so therefore we are not going." Like I said, I admire them for sticking to their guns.
Well, here's the weird thing. Yeah, here's the weird thing for me about Corn City season. It's going to go down in the books as either, depending on what they do this weekend, either 4-6 or a 3-7 season. But in reality, they were so close to that 3-6 record being something like 7-2 right now, or 6-3.
6-3
I mean, so close to that.
Yeah. Another game that stuck out to me this week was Mars blanking Kiski. I know Kiski is not the best team in the world, but that was an impressive showing for Mars. And we talked about them in the past about how their defense has been good all year. Now their offense is coming around. They're a really dangerous team at this point. I think they're peaking at the right time. They could be a tough out in the playoffs.
The game I'm going to mention is, and maybe this is because I picked Slippery Rock, and they ended up losing to Oil City 28-10. I know Christian Cole had a lot of yards. I thought Slippery Rock would be able to key their defense on him, and I thought he was going to get his yards, but I thought Slippery Rock would win the game. They ended up losing by 18. I think, though,
He had a lot of carries, too.
he had a lot of carries.
35 carries for those 200 yards, so he earned them.
I think I was not giving enough credit to Oil City. I think Slippery Rock's pretty much what we are who they thought they were.
Yeah.
But they're a good team. They just went up against an offense with a stud at running back. So kudos to Oil City, 28-10, and they're 8-1 now. So they're
Their record obviously speaks for itself, and they're more than just Christian Cole. They have other weapons on offense that hurt Slippery Rock as well. But I think Slippery Rock did a pretty good job against Christian Cole. They held him to his worst yards, but he came in averaging almost 14 yards a carry. He only averaged 6.2 yards per carry in that game. So they cut his production basically in half.
Plus, I think we pointed out.
He did a good job.
Yeah. Plus, I think we pointed out on last week's show that team rushed for 1,200 yards this year. That
besides Cole
didn't belong to Christian Cole. Yeah. So that team can run the football. Period. So.
Now we are on to one of our favorite segments, the over/under segment.
I can't wait to hear
these.
I can't wait to hear these
at this point.
Wait till the third
Straight from the bottom of the barrel.
The third one's the best, but we're going to start off with.
Okay.
Actually, we're gonna pick this game obviously later in our pick segment.
Okay.
But Knox Freeport this week going up against each other. Knox a 3A team. I'm sorry, Knox a 4A team. Freeport's a 3A team. They're going up against each other. Do you see this game being high scoring? I'm putting the over under at 45.5 points. John, what do you think?
I thought for a second you were going to put a punch spread on this game. I wasn't sure where you were going with this Freeport Knox thing. All right, over under is what, 45.5?
45.5.
Oh boy,
That's
I'm
a good
going to
one.
go.
That's a good.
I'm going under. I'm going under. I like both defenses to slow both offenses, so I'm going under.
Mike?
I'm going slightly over. Not by much though. I see it being kind of like a 26-21 kind of game, which would be 47 points, which would be over. So I'll let you know who I think is going to win later. But you know, still 26-21 is still kind of in that mid range. It's not low scoring, it's not high scoring.
See,
That's what kind of game it's going to be. It's going to be a mid range.
See, I'm thinking more like 21-14 or something like that. That's what I'm thinking.
The interesting thing about Knox this year, 237 points for. They scored for themselves. 237 points against.
Yep.
Really
right down
exactly.
there even. Freeport has given up 122 points this year, but 86 of those 122 came against Elizabeth Forward, Derry, and North Catholic. So
What was 41 against North Catholic, or was it more than that? I can't remember what that score was.
I believe it was
Or was it 40?
40. I think it was 40.
Yeah, it was 40.
So that's even more.
But they haven't faced a triple option yet either. You always have to factor in how are they going to handle the triple option. You have to wonder about that.
I'm going here between in this game 45.5 points. I'm going under, but I do have one of these teams winning pretty decisively. So we'll get to that pick later. But I'm going under.
That's surprising to me right there.
Under 45.5 points. Number 2, over under. I got Garrett Ranke right now. His stats up until last week, 1,342 yards plus his yardage he had against Kiski last week. He had a big game. 1,525 yards this year. Does he get to 2,000? This is including the playoffs. Now, obviously, this might take into effect how far you think Mars can go in the playoffs. But does Garrett Ranke get to 2,000? 1,525 right now, Mike.
I think he does. I think he goes over. Because that's what, about 400 and some change?
475 yards.
I see them playing at least 3 more games. So it's still only about 150 a game, 170 a game. I think he gets it, but probably not by much though, because who are they playing this week? Hampton. I think he gets some pretty good chunky yardage this week against Hampton. Next week in the following week in the first round of the playoffs, you figure Mars is going to get a pretty high seed, so they're going to be playing probably a weaker team, and he's probably going to carry the mail quite a bit in that game. So he might get it. He might be like maybe 50 yards short by the time he gets to that third game, which is going to be the big challenging game for Mars. So I think he goes over.
It's a tough one, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's a tough one because Hampton's the wild card here. I mean, Garrett Ranke could go off. I agree with Mike. He could go off against Hampton, and if he goes over, say 200-yard game versus Hampton, puts him at what? That would put him at what? 1725. If he goes from even 200, then he's got a pretty good shot at 2,000. But my guess here is I'm going to go under. I'm going to say he falls short of 2,000 for 2 reasons. Number one, I think if Mars builds a big lead against Hampton, I think Scott Hunter is going to pull Ranke to save him for postseason play. And then if Mars is fortunate enough to advance in the playoffs, they're always going to be facing a stronger defense as they go. I'm going to say he falls short of 2,000 yards.
I'm going to go over here. I think between the next 2 games, Hampton and, as Mike alluded to, their first round playoff opponent's probably not going to be a really good team. I think with over the next 2 games, he should probably get pretty close to 400 yards total, I would say, and that would put him up over 1,900. So,
well, if that happens, then he's probably going to get it. But my point is, I don't think it's going to happen because I can see him being pulled early.
Because even in that third playoff game, he's going to get a large chunk of the carries because that game is going to be a very competitive game. Probably.
Of course, another thing is
you're leading offensive weapons, so. He could end up with 100, 150 yards in that game, even win or lose.
Another thing, they may feed him against Hampton because I know that Mars does take pride in winning that Eagle scoring trophy. They take pride in that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they feed Ranke and try to salt that thing away from him.
I saw Scott Heinauer Saturday at the soccer games, and I told him, hey, it looks like Garrett Ranke is going to win a scoring trophy, and his eyes just lit up.
Oh, they take pride in that.
Yeah, because he wasn't keeping track. He said, we don't keep track of that stuff. He goes, obviously you guys keep track of it. So, but he was, he was as excited as Scott Heinauer could get excited about something. I think Saturday when he found out that Garrett Ranke was probably going to win it.
By my
So they do. It's a feather in their cap.
by my numbers, I got Garrett Ranke leading by, I believe it's 24 points. So he's got a nice healthy lead.
He does.
Going into this Hampton game, and you got to believe he's going to score at least a couple touchdowns there.
I just don't think he's going to be as active against Hampton as you guys think he's going to be.
Two touchdowns.
I just don't think. No, I'm not saying. I'm talking in terms of carries. I'm talking in terms of number of carries.
Well, he could get.
Oh, he may get his touchdown.
He could get 50 yards on 13 carries.
Yeah, he could.
Hey,
We'll see.
now our third over-under topic is my favorite. John has been gracious enough to send me to the Norwin Seneca Valley game this week being played at Norwin, and as he knows, they have a big spread down there.
They do.
Jeez,
Pizza and hoagies both.
Pizza
and hoagies both
wings,
in the press box.
Nice selection of beverages. Now I'm going to
Whereas
start.
once again, I'll be working on my weekly Friday night diet.
I'm going to start this off by saying I'm showing up to Norwin High School hungry. I'm going to eat probably something light for lunch, and I'm going to show up for the 7 o'clock game hungry.
So what's the over-under?
What's the over-under?
How many times do I go to the buffet table in the press box in Norwin? 3.5 over.
Well, wait a minute. That depends on how much food you take on each trip. That's a factor.
One plateful.
That's
one
a factor.
plateful.
One plateful.
And I'm showing up hungry.
Our producer
Well, I'll tell you what. I think
is beside herself at this topic.
I thought this Philadelphia Fantasy League football thing was the regional last
But
week.
you lost.
This
You
one
lost
might
that
beat
league. John
This
Ramos
one
lost
might
that
have beat
league.
that.
That league got taken away from you. You lost it.
I know.
3.5 trips to the buffet.
All right, 3.5 over under 3.5 trips buffet table. You're going under because you're going to load your plate up twice, and there won't be a third trip under.
Well,
You're loading up. You're not
Derek's going to win this because he controls how many times he goes to the buffet.
If there's wings and pizza, I might be able to. I'll probably over.
So
I
says
think
over,
this is.
I'm going over.
No,
He
no,
says
no,
under, I'm going under.
No, this is one where Derek cannot give it over under because he controlled it. This is between you and me. Derek's not involved in this pick.
I think he goes over. I think he goes like 7 times. I don't know.
He's going
gonna
under.
be really, really hungry.
He's going to load his plate up too much.
I'd like to think that I can control myself and only go 3 times, but I'll let you know how it turns out.
You're going to have to let us know how it
Our producer wants to say, weigh in on
When I
this.
show up Friday night at the office with wing
Well, that's
sauce
what it's
on my
going to be.
face.
We'll see how often you're
Our producer wants to weigh on this. What do you think?
You have to take a picture of every plate
Okay.
and post it on Twitter.
Picture of every plate.
Good
Post it on
point,
Twitter.
producer. Good point by the producer.
You have to
We need a
keep
picture
track.
taken of every plate.
Picture didn't happen.
And we'll be able to tell.
Didn't happen, that's right.
We'll be able to tell by the level of belching too when you get back to the office.
And the wing sauce on my
Yeah,
shirt.
that's right. Yeah,
You
that's
can
right.
tell
All right.
how tough it is coming up with these over-unders when we're getting down to fantasy football leagues that John does no longer controls and trips the buffets.
You're on the hot seat.
We should do a over-under next week on how many of these over-unders we were right on. That would be a good over-under for next week, and then we can go back and find them out. Because we're going to have 30 over-unders, so we should do an over-under on how many we were right on. This is my 2 cents.
On to something serious.
Yeah, please move on to something else.
At least
Please,
more
move on to
serious
something
than the buffet table in Norwin. Guys, we've all covered a ton of high school football. John, you've been covering since the 50s, so I'm going to. We've all seen a lot of changes in football.
You've been covering this as leather helmets.
I was only born in '57. Let's just clarify that.
Not only the rules changes, but obviously scheme-wise, play selection-wise, especially on offense. John, I'm going to go to you first on this one. What changes have you seen in offenses in the time that you've been covering football, which is what, early 80s for you?
I'm covering football. High school football. 1979 was my first year covering, officially covering high school games.
Wow, you're old.
I am old. So, to me, the answer is
Ancient.
question is easy. It's spread offenses. Spread offenses are all over high school football now. You see them everywhere. When I was in high school, I mean, if our quarterback threw the ball 7 times, that was a lot. Now they throw the ball 7 times in 1 possession, maybe 2 possessions. A lot of schools do. They all don't. I mean, you still see the wing tee here and there. Locker runs a triple option. That's extremely rare in high school ball. But I would say my answer to that question in terms of offenses is spreads, 5 receiver sets, 4 receiver sets. You never saw that in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, the spread explosion.
Look at Brookville's offense, for goodness sake. It's just crazy. I mean, and you have other teams. Pine Richland runs so many complicated sets. I mean, you probably saw them play last week. So many different formations. North Allegheny does the same thing. Some of these bigger schools. Central Catholic does different things. I mean, high school offenses used to be close to the vest, run the ball, maybe run outside, maybe they do some quarterback draws and some different things. But now you're seeing teams chucking it all over the place. That's the biggest difference.
There was a time when you never saw a quarterback taking a snap in high school from the shotgun.
Oh, never.
Now it's about half the teams. That's all they do is take snaps from the shotgun.
Yep.
But I will say this: it's been kind of cyclical. Butler County teams. There's a lot of teams that are ground and pound this year. We don't have a whole lot of spread offenses in our coverage here. Look at our passing stats. We only have 3 guys over 1,000 yards passing.
Well, in my call this past Sunday, I pointed out we could have 10 running backs run for 10 or more touchdowns, and only 3 or 4 quarterbacks throw for 10 or more touchdowns.
You look at some of our team. Montauk, they're a ground and pound team. Slippery Rock is predominantly a running team, although they've been throwing a little bit more lately. I know Seneca and North Catholic. Even North Catholic started out as a pass-happy team. They're more of a running team now.
Yep.
Mars, obviously, they've been running that wing T since I think it was invented. They've been running it.
They probably invented it.
Even Union and AC Valley, they throw a little bit, but they're predominantly a running team. So I think it's cyclical. I think Butler County teams are kind of going back to the you mentioned knock with the option offense. That used to be a lot more prevalent. Now it's now it's such a big anomaly you hardly ever see it.
Plus, that's another point. That's another thing that's a big difference. I should mention that you mentioned the option. 25, 30 years ago, a lot of teams ran a straight option offense where the quarterback rolls and either keeps it or pitches it. You hardly ever see that anymore.
No.
You don't see that.
What's a dangerous offense because you get a lot of fumbles.
Yep.
Derek, what do you?
Every once in a while, you'll see a team. You remember probably a decade ago, or actually now even Brookville. You talked about Brookville.
Yep.
They throw the ball a ton. Most high schools, at least this is my take, most high schools still run the ball more than they pass. They just do it out of formations that 20 years ago you didn't know. They were very rare.
I agree. Well, they do those formations. They to get people out of the box, on defense. But another team, South Fayette is classic at doing that. So as I mentioned, Pine Richland. I mean, some of these teams that are averaging 35, 45 points per game, that's how they're doing it.
I think
they're just so versatile on offense.
I think too the prevalence of these 7-on-7 camps in the summer, passing camps has really helped develop quarterbacks faster and better. You have more skilled passers than you did back in even a decade ago. So I think that's a big factor with these offenses. Everyone's trying to be ahead of the game. The spread was ahead of the game. I think defenses are starting to catch up a little bit to it. So I think again it's going to be cyclical. I see a lot of teams kind of going back, like Montauk went to the spread. They were kind of going back to that ground and pound. I think teams are better served to look at their personnel instead of and fit their offenses to their personnel rather than just we're running spread. We're doing that no matter what, which some teams do. Some teams unfortunately have a philosophy and they're going to try to fit square pegs into round holes.
You have to do that, but by the same token, the fact that teams do throw the ball more, now you're seeing more quality receivers at the high school level because teams throw the ball more. These receivers are being developed at a younger age, and you see a lot of high quality high school pass receivers that, like I said, they weren't there 25, 30 years ago. They didn't exist.
So we move on from offense to defense, and specifically defense in this county and defensive players in this county. We got a lot of good defenses. We got a lot of good defensive players. Mike, who are some of the top ones you've noticed?
Well, I haven't seen Mars or Seneca this year. I know they have 2 very good defensive units. So I'm sure there's some really good defensive players on those teams, but I can't really speak to them. I can only speak to the teams that I've seen. And one guy that stands out for me is from Montauk, Cody Wise, linebacker for them. He gets a lot of attention on offense. He's been a bull as a running back the last few weeks, but on defense this year, he has 8 tackles for loss. He's kind of the center of their defense. He sideline to sideline, tough nosed guy. He hits extremely hard. Another guy, really, there's 3 guys at Slippery Rock on the defensive line, but the one guy that really stands out is Sean Northcott. He has 6 tackles for loss this year. He's very disruptive on their defensive line, and he doesn't get a whole lot of tackles, but he allows the linebackers and the safeties and somebody up in the box to come in and make tackles. So those are the guys that stand out to me that I've personally seen this year. Like I said, I'm sure you can speak more to Seneca Valley and Mars because you've seen them. I know they have good units and they probably have some standout players in that side.
Yeah, I'm going to use that as a segue. I'm going to comment on these kids and we'll get to you, John.
Okay.
Seneca Valley, you don't give up 78 points in
Exactly.
9 games without having good players all over your defense. But one kid that has stood out for me this year is Sage Light. He's a hybrid type defensive end linebacker, and he's good in all 3 aspects of playing defense. He can rush the passer, he can cover, he can actually go into coverage and cover the pass, and he's also really good at run stopping. And he's a big reason why that team's going to give up under 100 points this year, no matter what the outcome of Friday's game against Norwood. Norwood's not going to score more than 3 touchdowns on Seneca, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
Mars, I'm going to go with a player at each level of their defense. Michael Carney, who's 6'6", 282 pounds. I mean, how do you block a kid like that? He's a defensive end linebacker. I'm going to go into the underclassmen here and pick out a kid named Ben Chismar. His older brother Max already played for Mars, but I covered a game a few weeks ago against North Hills, and Ben, again, just a sophomore, he was all over the place, making tackles, disrupting North Hills' offense. I think he's going to be a good one for 2 more years for Mars. And in the secondary, Drew Schlegel, who Chuck Green recently got hurt for Mars. So now Schlegel's also playing wingback on offense, but he's a safety on defense. And you covered the game at Shaler this year, had that big interception. So the turnover factor as well, just a hard hitter. He's fast. He's just a great athlete. So those are the kids I've noticed this year. There's a bunch of them out there. John, what do you got there?
Well, I've seen Mars a couple times too, and just I'll echo your sentiments on Ben Chismar at linebacker. Outstanding looking sophomore linebacker. I mean, Mars, we've talked about it before, how they returned no starting linebackers from last year, and Chismar has really stepped up and filled a gap there for that team. And also with another young player, linebacker, Teddy Ruffner at Mars. I think he's another guy who, I mean, these kids have come up huge for that defense this year. And I also like Mitch Wright on the defensive line for the Mars Planets. He impressed me in both games that I saw Mars play this year. Of course, I've seen Butler play most of the time. I know they've lost by the lopsided scores, but not the fault of J.R. Harold. He's a linebacker for Butler. He's one of those kids. He's in on every play. He's got a ton of tackles for loss. I don't know I have the total here, but he's got a lot of them. Forced some turnovers. Excuse me. He's had an outstanding season for them. And a couple from Knock, I'll mention Mike linebacker Jarek Bricker from Knock. He's kind of the anchor of that defense, as is Scott Frazier at free safety, who's all over the field. And I was talking with Coach Frank Whalen after Knox win over Trinity last week. He said flat out Scott Frazier is the best safety in that league, which is saying something. That's a pretty good league. So those are the names that I've got on defense.
Defense might not get a lot of the headlines, but we certainly like to recognize the top players here upon further review. And now we will move on to our pick segment, and I've got to pick out the results from last week.
That's right. Let's hear them.
John, 11-0.
Can I say back-to-back zeros in the elk column?
Talk about somebody's getting too big for his nest.
Back-to-back zeros in the elk column.
Yeah.
Take that, Scoop. Take that, Scoop.
He's getting way too big for
Take that, Scoop.
This guy 11-0. Me and Scoop went 10-1. Mike went 8-3. So here's the
When you
update.
try to when you make bold predictions, sometimes it blows up in your face.
If I glance behind me, Scoop's behind me this way. He's behind me.
Okay, Scoop, he's still ahead in the overall.
Yes, he is. He is.
Scoop is 84-11. That's impressive. 84-11.
Very impressive.
John is 83-12. I'm 82-13. Like 78-17. So he's ready to make his move though. I feel it.
Hey, Mike took some gambles last week.
Gambles,
Probably took some gambles.
Go big or go home. That's
Sometimes they pay off, sometimes they don't.
So we got games this week. A lot of them have playoff implications, and the first one we're going to talk about has just that. Cannon McMillan and Butler. Cannon Mac can clinch a playoff spot in Class 6A in the Whitfield with the win. John, how do you got this one going?
they're not going to let that opportunity slip away. I mean, even though it's Butler's home game, last game it's senior night at Butler, I'm sure it'll be pretty emotional for those kids. You know how hungry those seniors are for Butler to get one win, and to do it in our last game would be a great story for them, but too much on the line for Kennebec. John Quinkay, their quarterback's throwing for over 900 yards. They've got a versatile passing attack, and they do like to throw the football more than run it, and I think they'll give Butler trouble that way. I'm going with Kennebec. I will say 35 to 10, Kennebec.
Mike.
With Butler, we've been talking all year about baby steps. Well, they took about 10 giant baby steps forward last week, I think. They threw 2 touchdown passes last week. So they got that passing game going a little bit. You know, they ended up losing, but I think they made some positive strides. But even if Butler does make some strides this week, I still think they're going to come up a little bit short. Because, like John said, Kennebec has too much riding on this game to lose on the road, even to a hungry Butler team. But I think, again, this one's going to be a competitive game for the most part. I think Kennebec wins 28 to 10.
You know what, Derek, before you make your pick, Bob, we're on the subject of Butler, I do want to mention, way back to the first segment, that I failed to mention this in. One thing that did surprise me last week, Butler throwing 2 touchdown passes, because that program had only thrown 1 touchdown pass total in the previous 2 years, and they got 2 in 1 game, so I wanted to bring that up. But the pick is all yours.
Kennebec, I might be a bad person to judge Kennebec, because I saw them earlier this year in that game that they did not have 7 two-way starters playing.
Yeah, they were
because of
back,
some off-the-field discretions.
Yeah.
I think they were at a party and the punch was a little too strong. But with those guys back, they came back after that Seneca loss. Seneca beat them 31-0, and they've won a couple games to put themselves in a position to make the playoffs. As John said, I don't think they're going to let that slip through their fingertips this week. I got. Interestingly, we all got Butler scoring 10 points. I have Kennebec winning this game 34 to 10. So. Another game with
pretty similar
playoff implications is Seneca Valley at Norwin. If Seneca Valley loses this game, they could lose out on a home playoff game. You know they don't want to do that.
Nope.
John, Seneca Valley at Norwin, I would think Seneca Valley's got to be the favorite team here at least.
Oh, they are. Norwin's got it. I'll tell you this for Norwin. They've got a first-rate quarterback. Their quarterback is outstanding. He's a Pitt recruit, but Pitt wants him. I don't think he's committed to Pitt yet, but Pitt really wants this kid. He is that good. I think he's only a junior. But Seneca Valley's defense, I've been sold on them for weeks now. That defense will make the difference. Seneca Valley wins this game. I'm going to say 28 to 7. Seneca Valley defeats Norwin.
Mike, Seneca Valley or Norwin?
Yeah, Seneca's going to secure a home playoff game in this one. Norwin is a dangerous team. Seneca's got to be wary of, like John said, that quarterback is the real deal. But so is Seneca Valley's defense, and I think that's going to be the difference in this game. I think they're going to, again, going to show why they're one of the best defenses, not just in the county, but in Whitfield. Seneca wins 31 to 8.
Okay, I'll make sure I watch the action in between eating my wings and pizza. But Seneca Valley coming off a game in which they gave up 21 points, which for that defense is saying something.
Yes, it is.
That's the most points they've given up this year.
Yep.
They gave up a lot of yards to Pine Ridge, 369 rushing yards.
Yep.
You know they want to get back on track. They don't want to miss out on a home playoff game. Seneca Valley wins this game 31 to 10. All right, and this is probably the toughest game this week for me to pick, but I came to some clarity and I picked the team decisively.
Okay.
Freeport playing at Knock, non-conference. Freeport's going to the playoffs. Knock, it's still in doubt. Mike, who do you got here?
We talked about this a little bit with the over-under. I think it was 45.5. I think Freeport's just going to have just a little bit more than Knock can handle, especially with Romanchak, Connor Salinger. I do think Knock's going to do some good things with that triple option. Like John said earlier, it's a really hard defense to prepare against, but I believe that Freeport's defense is going to be stout enough to at least keep it in check a little bbit. So I have Freeport winning 26-21.
John, what say you?
I disagree. I think it's a bad matchup for Freeport. Knox defense. I saw. Now, granted, I only saw Knox play once this year. That was last week against Trinity. But I saw there was some holes in Knox pass coverage. But Freeport doesn't throw the ball particularly well, and Knox was very stout against the run. I mean, very stout against it. Freeport likes to run the ball, particularly with Romanchak and Connor Selinger. I think Knox stalls them out enough to win the game. That's why I'm picking Knox 21-14. I think the triple option for Knox will find the end zone 3 times. And it'll be a very close, competitive, and trust me, hard-hitting football game. This will be a physical, non-section game. Trust me on that. But I'm not winning by 7 points.
It's a backyard brawl, basically.
Yep. This is going to be a hard-hitting game. I'll guarantee it.
I see Knox's strength on defense, especially, is stopping the run, and that's what Freeport likes to do. The game's at Knox. It's on that grass. I like this. I think this game's going to be close for the most part. I see maybe a couple turnovers late, putting Knox ahead for good. I got them winning 24-6, but I don't think they're going to give up. They're not going to give up many yards to.
I feel better about what I think. You're usually wrong. You're usually wrong when you come.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
24-6.
I feel better about going.
Derek in trouble with Knox. He is trouble with
24-6 Knox. So
okay.
John, you and I are in the same boat. You
Yes,
feel
we
good
are.
about that?
I do this week, though, yeah. Well, I do.
Hampton at Mars. Jacques DiMatteo and his Talbots coming to the Mars Athletic Complex. Hampton's a struggling team. Won just twice all year. We talked about Mars. They're flying high. They're 8-1. They're off to the playoffs. John, is this a game at all?
I don't think it is, especially Mars playing at home. You mentioned Hampton struggling. They're only averaging 14 points a game. Mars only giving up 13 points a game. That's a bad combination for the Talbots. Mars rolls in this game. And like I said, I think they're going to use a lot of people, and they're going to win big. I'm saying Mars wins this game 38-14.
Mike,
I think Mars is gonna play their starters a lot more than John thinks because it's Hampton. I think that's why. And I think because of that, Garrett Ranke's gonna have a big game. Mars is gonna have a big game in general. Mars' defense is gonna have a big game in general. I see them putting up another goose egg, 35-0 Mars.
Playoffs next week. You got to stay healthy.
And you can't live in your fears. So like Tom
I
said, you gotta play. You gotta play.
I agree with that theory. I agree with that theory. I do.
I got the Planets winning big in this one, 38-7. I covered Hampton this year in the opener against Knox. They won that game. But since then, Knox trended upward. They've had some bumps in the road, but they're still alive for a playoff spot. Hampton was knocked out a few weeks ago.
Yep.
I don't like Talbot's chances in this one at all. I got the Planets winning 38-7. North Catholic at Deer Lakes. Deer Lakes is obviously out of the playoff race. They're one of those teams that just struggle against the top teams in that conference, including Freeport. John, who do you got winning here? North Catholic's rolling right now.
Oh, I think they're still going to roll. North Catholic, of course, they're involved in a 3-way tie on top of that conference race that none of those top 3 teams can afford to take a bump right now. North Catholic will be geared up for that reason that Deer Lakes cannot handle them. North Catholic wins, I'm going to say 42-7.
North Catholic needs not only to win this game, but win it convincingly because it's seeding.
Yep.
I mean, you know, Alcoa.
They've got plenty of motivation. They have plenty of motivation.
So it's going to come down to whether North Catholic's the 3rd seed. They could be the 6th seed, depending on what the powers that be think of them. Because I think those 3 teams that are going to end up probably tied for the section championship are going to be seeds 3, 4, and 5 in that section, or in the Whitfield playoffs. So I think North Catholic wants to be that 3. So I think to do that, I think they know they're going to have to go out, win big, win convincingly. So I think you're going to see a little bit more sense of urgency against a poor team than you usually would, and that's going to end up being a 49-7 route for North Catholic.
I got North Catholic winning. I think they're going to give up a few more points. I got them winning 44-17. So I don't know if that will be impressive enough to the Whitfield selection committee to give them a higher seed. But 44-17 Trojans. This is an interesting game here. Keystone and Montauk. Keystone is actually a double-A team playing in the small school division.
They are.
But if they go to the playoffs, Keystone, and we know Montauk's in. If Keystone goes to the playoffs, they'll be in the same tournament as Montauk. So theoretically, this could be the first of 2 matchups this year. We'll see how that turns out.
It could be.
Montauk playing at home. John, you like the Warriors?
I do. I think Keystone has been susceptible to the turnover, but they turned the ball over. Their quarterback threw a couple of picks last week in their loss. Montauk's defense is, as Mike's alluded to many times, he's seen them play a few times. Very hard hitting. They thrive on taking the ball away. They thrive on making plays with their defense. They'll do that Friday, and it will be a big win for Montauk. I'm going Warriors, and I'm going to say they win 28-6.
Montauk defense thrives on like just breaking their will.
Yeah.
That's what they thrive on. But it's their offense that's it's been impressive the last 2 weeks. They've rushed for over 800 yards the last 2 weeks, including 432 last week. I think that trend continues. Cody Wise is on fire running the ball. Chance Nagy has run the ball well. They've gotten other guys involved like Trent Kelly. He ran for almost 100 yards last week. I think that's where Montauk's really made a big improvement the last few weeks after that, or last week after that disappointing loss the week before. So I think they're gonna roll. I think they're gonna put up a 40 burger. I'm gonna say 40-14. Montauk.
All right. Keystone's 3 victories this year are against Port Allegheny, Sheffield, Cameron County. They get beat up by everybody.
They do.
Montauk's far better than any of those 3 teams.
Yeah.
I like, Montauk's clinched a playoff berth. They're going. I mean, they're going to be in that AA tournament, but they also want to go into that with momentum, and they're going to win. I got them winning by 3 scores. I got 30-13.
Plus, keep in mind, it's going to be Montauk's. I'm guessing it's going to be their senior night also. And when teams play at home on senior night, there's a lot of emotion involved there, and that's going to help them as well. We
all have Montauk winning by a considerable amount. So, Warriors, we're all for you this week. I don't know if that's a good thing. This game was not added to our schedule until just a few weeks ago. Karn City, which originally did not have a 10th game scheduled, is now playing a 10th game. They're going to Titusville. Enjoy that road trip. 2 struggling teams: Karn City 3-6, Titusville 2-7. Mike, how's this one turn out?
This is a good game for Karn City. They need something positive to go into the offseason with after that disappointing loss last week, and really a slew of disappointing losses. I think they're going to go up there. They're going to be united. They're going to have a good, I think, flawless game. I think they're going to blow Titusville out. I think this is going to be ugly. I really do. I think Karn City knows, okay, this is our last game. We got to go out on a good note to build for next season. I think they're going to win 54-21.
John,
yeah,
you going that high?
No, I'm not going
to. Defense.
No, I'm not going to. I've got a little more respect for Titusville here. I mean, I looked up some of their numbers. They got a pretty. Their defense isn't bad. I mean, they've given up. Well, I shouldn't say bad. They have given up a lot of points. I'll say that. But they also get a lot of. They have 47 tackles for loss as a defense through 9 games. That's pretty impressive. That's over 5 a game. So, but they have been torched. Mercer's Prep hit them for 68. Northeast hit them for 55. Siprock hit them for 55 when Siprock beat them. So, but I don't know if Karn City's offense is going to total that many points, but I do think they'll win. I'm going to go Gremlins. I'm going to say 42-27, kind of a wild game.
42 is a lot of points.
It is a lot of points.
It's not that far away from 54.
Nope.
It's only a couple more touchdowns.
But I think they'll give up more though.
Neither of these teams, as I mentioned, is going to the playoffs. Karn City missing it in District 9, Titusville missing it in District 10. You say, okay, well, what do you have to play for? Look, this is just me. Anytime I'm sticking on a uniform, especially for the seniors, this is their last game.
And that's a very prideful program in Karn City.
Prideful
It's
program.
a very prideful
You stick
program.
that uniform on. I don't care if you're going out skipping rocks. I want to win.
Absolutely.
That's the way I would look at this game if I'm a Karn City or Titusville player, because they're not going to the playoffs either. The road trip obviously benefits Titusville because they're sitting at home. They're waiting for those Karn City buses to pull in. But Karn City's had a rough year. I got to believe they're going to find a way to end it on a good note. I got lower scoring game though, 21-14, but Karn City ends the season with a win, 4-6. Union AC Valley headed to the playoffs, but they're playing a Ridgeway team this week that's undefeated. John, does Union
Actually,
AC...
Ridgeway lost to Brookville last week.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they were upset by Brookville last week.
Okay,
so
no,
they won.
Union AC Valley playing a one-loss Ridgeway
yes.
team. Does Union AC hand Ridgeway a second one?
No, and I was about to say Brookville poked the bear last week. They poked the bear, and Union East Valley's
Don't poke the bear.
Union East Valley's going to pay for that poking. They are. They're going to pay for it. Ridgeway's very strong. They lost 28 to 11 to Brookville last week. Brookville really handed it to them. Pride hit for Ridgeway. Union East Valley is going to pay for that. I'm picking Ridgeway by the score of 27 to 8.
Okay, Derek, I'm not that bold.
Hey,
Derek
hey,
already wrote down AC Valley.
Hey,
I learned my lesson last week. when I picked them.
remember last week we said if Union AC Valley beat Red Bank, Mike was going to sing the alma mater to
But-
win their
but
school.
they
Mike,
did not.
you can still do it. You can still do it.
I don't
We know you.
still don't know the words.
I
So
don't.
I don't even know what they're. I wouldn't even know where to begin. But I learned my lesson from last week. Union AC Valley. I picked them to win. Not only did they lose, they lost by playoffs big. Yeah, Ridgeway is just in every phase. They're just better. They're just a better team.
Yeah.
A better team usually wins. And the better team's going to win this week. So I think Ridgeway's going to handle Union pretty handily, 32-14.
Another senior night home game too. That's another senior night home game.
I want to apologize to Brookville. I just assumed that Ridgeway was going to find a way to beat you.
They
but
did not. No, they did
apparently, Brian Dorr catching 15 passes.
He did.
for
He had another huge
27
game.
yards.
Yeah, he had another huge game, by the way.
I got. This is a game between teams in two different classes. Union AC is small. Ridgeway's in the big division.
There's just no. It's just a bad matchup for you.
Yeah.
39-8 Elkers.
Okay.
And our last Summit game of the season, they host
Yes.
Mohawk. Mohawk's a tough team. They're headed to the playoffs. John, do the Knights scalp the Warriors?
No, they don't. They don't. So Summit Academy and Butler, unfortunately, they're going to go the same route this week. They're both going to have to indoor winless seasons. It's a mismatch. I mean, let's be honest. So Mohawk's 7-2. They're 6-1 in league play. Summit hasn't won. Summit is averaging less than a touchdown a game. So
You're taking Summit. What's the score?
Derek wrote down Summit.
Did you write down something?
Just
No,
opposite.
Mohawk wins big. I'm going to say 48-6 Mohawk.
Well, I'm picking Summit. No, I'm not even that bold. I pick bold games. We'll make bold predictions, but I'm not that bold. Look, Summit Academy. It's been one of
Tough
those
year.
years for them.
Tough.
Yep.
You know, you have to feel bad for them. They play in a tough section. They're playing tough opponents week in and week out.
And this is a non-conference game.
This
This
is
is who they
It
play.
is.
a
It is a non-conference game,
So Mohawk's going to win. I'm going to say 36-8.
47-12. Knights scored twice.
Oh, Knights scored twice.
Knights
Okay.
scored twice.
All right.
And we're going to move on to our final segment on subject on another sport. And this was pretty easy for me because I covered Butler girls soccer on Saturday. They fall behind 1-0 to the defending Whitville champion Penn Trafford Warriors, and then they proceed to outscore the Warriors 4-0 the rest of the game.
Yep.
First playoff win for Butler in 15 years.
That shocked me when I heard that. I assumed they had won a playoff game.
They've been to the playoffs, but they hadn't
Several
won, right?
That shocked me because that program's been good for years. And
I knew they had a long drought though. Remember, Butler girls soccer went through a stretch there where they had a different coach like every year for like 4 straight years,
Yeah,
4 or 5 straight years.
they were always like competitive.
Yeah,
they were always like.
They were okay,
Kicking
but
the door in
they had a stretch there during that time where they were losing. I mean, they had some bad.
So yeah,
bad
that
seasons
just
in there.
surprised me. So good for them.
Yeah, but you got to go back to like I said, but we touched on earlier. When Butler, I covered these Butler Downingtown games back in 2001, 2002, or somewhere in there. Last time Butler girls soccer was really dominant. You're right; they've got some good teams. They were dominant back then. Back in the days when Megan Schnurr was there, and Annie Lowry and Nicole Hildebrand, and players like that. I think it's great for Butler. I mean, Steve Perry's done a great job there. I mean, he brought the program back. He was the coaching hire that settled down that gamut of coaches where they had a new coach every year. He came in, settled that down. He had some success over at Knox before coming to Butler, and he's got the program going in the right direction without question. Look at Butler came back for 3 goals down to beat Seneca Valley.
Yeah, it's kind of been
They
their
rallied
MO
to beat
this year.
North Allegheny or beat them maybe.
Their MO has been falling behind and coming back.
They don't quit, and that's a credit to the coaching staff headed by Steve Perry.
I talked to Mark Perry, Seneca's coach, last week for the story I did on both Seneca teams getting #1 seeds, and I talked to him about that game that they were up 3-0 on Butler, and Butler came back and won. And he said, "Look, we just had a letdown against a really good team." He said, "Mark my words, Butler's going to make waves in the Whitville playoffs," and they've already done it. They knocked off the defending champion.
They did.
The thing that's most impressive about Butler is they're getting contributions from underclassmen. 3 of their 4 goals on Saturday were scored by 2 by Chloe Weiland, who is a freshman,
She's something else.
and 1 by
Really good.
Gabby Bowden, who's a sophomore. So it looks like the stage is set for Butler possibly to have a really good run here for the next few years, where they might be able to go deep in the playoffs for several years. But they play Peters Township on Wednesday. Peters Township's the number 3 seed, and they better be ready for Butler, which I'm sure they will be. But don't take the Tornado lightly, despite their 11th seed.
Now, you mentioned Chloe Weiland. I saw the one game I saw them play was against San Valley when they came back. The thing that struck me about her was just her pure speed. There's no one on the soccer pitch that can keep up with her. She's one of the fastest players I've seen on a soccer field since I've been covering soccer. I mean, it's almost like everyone else is standing still. I hope she runs track, because I imagine she will.
If Mike Sauer has anything to do with it, she'll be running track.
Because she is, I mean, insanely fast. So,
well, if you look at too, I mean, you're talking about, like I said, we are talking about a team or a program, I should say, that hasn't won a playoff game in 15 years. Derek, you covered that game against Penn Trafford the other night. Butler falls behind early, 1-0. They hadn't won a playoff game in so many years. What do? They respond. They pump 4 goals in, and they win going away. That's a strong character team. That's what that shows me.
So Butler next in action again, the girls soccer team on Wednesday against Peters Township at Peters Township. Good luck to the Tornado.
Absolutely.
And we will see you next week.